The U.S. men's national team have now completed 2 games in the 2020 Gold Cup. The first, a 1-0 victory over Haiti, and the second, a 6-1 just all-around butt-kicking against Martinique. But in spite of that conclusive victory, there's still a lot of questions heading into the final game of this opening round of the Gold Cup against the best opponent that we will have played thus far in Canada. There's still a lot of open questions. There's still, we just didn't see a lot against that Martinique team, which, God bless them, just weren't up to the standard of what we're going to be facing against Canada. So in this episode, we're going to take a deep dive into that Martinique game. We're going to take a look at all the big moments, all the goals, everything that happened for the U.S. men's national team, and talk about what this means heading into that all-important final matchup against Canada. All that and more on this episode of The Yank Report. What's up? My name is Sam. Welcome into The Yank Report, the show where we talk about the U.S. men's national team, and right now the content is flowing hot and heavy because we're right in the middle of all this Gold Cup action. We've got games every couple of days. We're also got the interviews that are coming in. Thank you guys so much for watching the interview with Straight Red Card. That was a lot of fun. Thank you guys for tuning into those interviews. They've been a blast just to have fun conversations about soccer. If you are into soccer, if you are into the U.S. men's national team, if you want to keep track of all this crazy Gold Cup stuff that's going on, make sure you hit the subscribe button if you haven't already done so. The coolest thing you can do to support the channel right now is to hit that like button. Let's set a like button goal for this video at 475. Let's see if we can hit 475 likes. If we hit 475 likes, we are going to destroy the maple syrup eaters of Canada Sunday night. Before we get into the breakdown, I want to say thank you to our sponsor for today's video, and that is OneFootball. OneFootball is the football lover's dream. It is your one source for the latest news and information about your favorite teams, players, leagues, all that good stuff. If you are into soccer and you want to keep track of the Gold Cup, going to that Gold Cup website is an awful experience for the user. It's so much easier just to go to the OneFootball app. You can see what games are happening. You can see the results of games. You can see all the statistics, who played. You can see the lineups. To download the OneFootball app, click the link in the description. By doing so, you're not only going to get access to the latest news about your favorite team, league, players, all that good stuff, but you're also directly supporting the Yank Report and supporting a company that supports content creators for U.S. soccer like me. So thank you very much to OneFootball, and thank you to everybody that's downloaded the app. So the U.S. came out in that often feared, seldom seen 3-2-4-1 formation, or however you want to call it. We had 3 in the back. We had 2 men in the midfield. Our fullbacks played pretty high for the most of the game. We had 2 kind of tucked in wingers / attacking midfielders, and we had a striker. And we lined up with Matt Turner in goal, Shaq Moore out wide on the right. We had Walker Zimmerman, James Sands, and Miles Robinson in the back. We had George Bello on the left. Eric Williamson and Gianluca Busio were our pivots in the middle. We had Roldan and Matthew Hoppy playing underneath the striker, and our striker was Daryl DK. Now, Twitter exploded whenever this lineup came out. It was one of the funnest lineups we've seen in a while. It was probably one of the funnest lineups you can make out of this group of players. A lot of people on Twitter I saw, like Berhalter finally came to his senses. Berhalter's finally listening to the fans. To me, this was just, in that first game against Haiti, which Haiti was a much better team, and it was the first game of the tournament. I thought Gregg went very pragmatic, and he played a lot more of the experienced players, whereas in this game against Martinique, where Martinique's not as strong as Haiti, so he was able to play a much younger lineup. We saw a lot of the players get their first starts for the national team in this game, and we saw he was able to experiment a little bit more. That, combined with the fact that Paul Arriola went down and our winger depth is not that great, it gave Berhalter a lot of flexibility. Now, whether this carries into the final game against Canada, I guess we'll talk about that later. Let's start with the first piece of action from this game, and I have it 6 minutes in. Williamson runs at the back line. He draws a foul. That foul leads to a Busio free kick. The free kick sails over the bar, but it was not that far away. Now, I thought this was significant for a couple of reasons. The first one was, following that first game against Haiti, Gregg Berhalter's big critique of the team was a lack of progressive passes, a lack of looking to take on the game and move forward. And we saw with Williamson throughout the game, and specifically in this moment, that he had an opportunity to either play backwards or, recycle play or whatever, but instead he chose to run directly at the defense of Martinique, and that led directly to a free kick. And it gave Busio an opportunity to show one of the things he's best at, which is striking dead balls. That's something that we've seen with the senior squad. It's a big question mark. Who's going to take free kicks for the U.S. men's national team best 23? Busio has that in his bag. In the 14th minute, we have our first goal, and that sequence went like this. Williamson sends a ball out wide to Bello. Bello digs the ball out of the corner on the U.S. left flank. He passes back to Hoppy, who is near the elbow of the box. Hoppy sends a pacey in-swinging cross into the box that finds Daryl Dike's head. Daryl Dike actually has to contort his body to direct the ball into the back of the net. 1-0 USA. We saw a lot of cool things on this play. First of all, Matthew Hoppy. I mean, throughout his tenure at Schalke, he's played up top as a striker. And in his games, I've seen him mostly just kind of running behind, finish off balls in the box. I haven't seen him do a lot of soccering, if I can steal a phrase from Jake from One Goal. I was never super impressed with Hoppy's hold-up play while at Schalke, and he tended to just not be a part of the build-up at all. But in this game, he played a little bit more withdrawn, and we had to see his skills with the ball, and he had some impressive moments with the ball. Now, that being said, he was playing against a Martinique team that kind of allowed him to do whatever he wanted, and he was able to take a lot more chances because he wasn't quite as worried about losing the ball and the potential for Martinique to counterattack. So that's a huge caveat for not only Hoppy, but I think everybody else in this game. But we did see that Hoppy possesses a lot more offensive skills than I, in particular, gave him credit for. And this cross was one of those. I don't think I've ever seen Hoppy cross the ball. So to see this really incisive cross, this in-sync swinging cross was really impressive. Now, he brought it into Daryl Dike. Dike, it wasn't just an easy header for Dike. He had to kind of get back and chase that ball. It was kind of impressive to see him contort his body acrobatically to put the ball away. But we've seen Dike do that throughout the last year and a half. Ever since he left Orlando City and arrived in the championship, he's been putting away chances like this. He gets his first opportunity in this game. 1-0 USA. In the 23rd minute, we get our next goal from the U.S., and the sequence breaks down like this. Hoppy receives a ball in the box and is dispossessed by a Martinique defender. Bello immediately pressures the Martinique defender, who then coughs up the ball. The ball deflects directly to Hoppy, who does well to control the deflection before backheeling into the path of an oncoming Busio. Busio's one-time shot beats the keeper, but deflects off the crossbar. Dike rises up to redirect the rebound towards goal in the path of a Martinique defender. The Martinique defender misplays the ball into the net. 2-0 USA. Now, originally this goal was given to Daryl Dike, but they took that goal away and made that an own goal, which was probably the right decision if you see the trajectory of the ball. But let's not worry about that right now. First, let's talk about Matthew Hoppy, because this is another example of Matthew Hoppy doing something really well and showing off his soccering ability, his technical ability, his technique, his on-the-ball ability, and his creativity that I wasn't aware he had. But at the same time, boy, Martinique did not put a lot of pressure on him, really made it easy for him. He receives the ball in the box, does well to bring it down, but gives it up to a Martinique defender, but just gets kind of lucky with a touch that comes right back to him, but does well to receive that ball and put it in a position where he can get to it. But once again, the Martinique defenders are not putting a ton of pressure on him. He's able to backheel it to Busio. Busio, who seems to be cursed at the moment because in his first game against Haiti, he put in a wonder strike that was somehow kept out of the net by a nice save by the keeper. In this game, the goal was not saved by the keeper, but it was saved by the crossbar. It hits the underside of the crossbar. Poor Busio has put probably two of the nicest strikes on goal in the past two games. It hasn't been rewarded with a goal yet, so hopefully we see that later on in the tournament. The deflection comes to DK, DK just seems to always be switched on, always ready for moments like this. He's a fox in the box. Opportunities like this don't go to waste when Daryl Dike is in the game. He gets his head on it. He puts it back in front of goal. Martinique defender runs in, puts it in an own goal in a really calamitous situation. 2-0 USA. That was the end of scoring in the first half. Not long after halftime, in the 50th minute, we get another goal. A Busio corner passes through the box harmlessly. Williams chases down the ball and immediately puts a cross back into the mixer. an unmarked Robinson casually heads it home, 3-0 USA. Another moment where we see Williamson. Williamson seemed to be on the front foot the whole game. He seemed to be one of those players that was switched on. Like I said, Daryl Dike always seems to be switched on in the box. Well, Eric Williamson is not a player that seems to be caught off guard for anything. And it was a nice, tidy game for Eric Williamson. I think whenever you have a team like Martinique that is not going to be putting a ton of pressure on these players and is a team that's not going to really hurt you if you're too aggressive, it plays really well into the hands of a really aggressive player like Williamson. So played right to his strengths. He had another great game coming off of a nice little cameo against Haiti. Williamson puts that cross back into the mixer, and Robinson is able to head it home. I don't want to say too much about this goal because Robinson was just unmarked. There wasn't a lot of pressure on the cross from Williamson. There wasn't pressure on the header from Robinson. But these are the if Martinique was willing to give these goals away, I'm glad we were in position to take them. Now, as we're talking about Robinson, let's take this moment to talk about the back line for the U.S. men's national team. Coming into this tournament, Gregg did say that the center back was a position where he didn't feel comfortable with the depth. He was happy with Zimmerman. He was happy with Robinson. But beyond that, he was a little bit concerned. Now, following that injury to Areola, we see the U.S. switch to a back three, and we see James Sands come on. And James Sands has been fantastic in this tournament. In his cameo against Haiti and throughout this game against Martinique, his ability on the ball has been very impressive. We know that he can play as defensive midfielder as well as a center back, and in that center back position, he really helped with the distribution of the ball. He was a metronome back there. He took a lot of pressure off of the possession game for the U.S. In the buildup. We saw in that first game against Haiti that there were times where Jackson Ewell really struggled in that defensive midfielder position to combine with that his center backs in the back, and the build-up was just a little stiff. Whereas in this back three formation, you have a couple extra players back there that can ping passes around, and you have three center backs who are fairly competent on the ball. And I don't know if I would have said that coming in. I've never been a huge fan of Walker Zimmerman. I didn't know that he had this ability in his game, but he's really seemed to step up and be willing to play progressive passes and get the ball out in the attack. Same thing for James Sands. Same thing for Robinson. So I would not be surprised if Berhalter continues with this back three just because of the quality of James Sands is shown throughout this Martinique game and through the Haiti game. Without quality wingers up top, with whatever Paul Areola is going through. I don't know if he's going to be available for the Canada game or beyond that, so we'll see about that. But without some great winger options up top, it just makes sense that we stay in this back three. In the 58th minute, the U.S. has their first substitutions in the game. Shaq Moore and Matthew Hoppy come out. Kellen Acosta and Nico Gioacchini come in. We haven't talked about Shaq Moore yet. After his man-of-the-match performance in that Haiti game, he had another solid game against Martinique. But at the same time, I will say that, the U.S. hasn't been really under pressure in either of these first two games, so we haven't seen a lot of Shaq Moore defensively. In the moments that we have seen him defensively, he's looked good. But for these players that are kind of brand new or I say brand new, that are fairly new to the national team setup, and I'm talking about Shaq Moore, I'm talking about Busio, Williamson, Sands, Robinson, all these guys, it's hard to give them a whole lot of credit to like really put a lot of weight in their performances off of this Haiti and Martinique game. I think we're going to learn a lot more against this Canada team that's going to be a lot stronger of an opposition and is going to put a lot more pressure on the team. So Shaq Moore, he's looked good against the opposition that's been put in front of him, but I want to see what he does against Canada, assuming that he starts. I'm assuming that he gets to start against Canada. So not long after that substitution break, we get another goal from the U.S. So DK receives a ball about 40 yards out and finds Roldan in the middle of the pitch. Roldan gets the ball in the middle, and with runners in front, he plays a ball in the direction of DK and Gioacchini. It probably was to Gioacchini, but DK kind of intercepted it and said, my ball. DK's first touch is in behind the Martinique back line. Then he beats the Martinique defenders to the ball and then chips a bouncing ball over the keeper. Probably my favorite goal of the match. Just one of those goals where Daryl Dike just says, I'm Daryl Dike and I'm going to score on you. It doesn't matter what you do. Another one of those goals that I'm not sure how many U.S. men's national team strikers in the pool can just kind of take a moment and just create their own goal like Daryl Dike has done in the past for Orlando City and for Barnsley, and then once again in this game. Daryl Dike did about just everything you could want him to do in this game. He scored the goals. He was the fox in the box. He was a constant source of danger for the U.S. in and around the goal. Great game from Daryl Dike. Now, as for Roldan, I know Roldan is one of those players that U.S. men's national fans are not excited to see whenever his name ends up in the lineup. And though I will say he's been looking really good for Seattle, one of the better, I think the best team in MLS so far. In this game, he was okay. He didn't really stand out in a game against Martinique where you'd really expect a player like Roldan to like really just dominate. And I don't know if he did that. I don't know if he was one of the better players on the pitch. I don't know that if you look at the depth chart right now for players in that attacking midfielder position, if Roldan's very high. But this was the perfect game to see a player like Roldan, a game that, you know, the U.S. men's national team was definitely going to win, was definitely going to dominate for the majority of the match. So we got to see our Roldan cameo. I don't think that he's going to be involved too much further on down the road, but there he is. He gets an assist in this goal for Daryl Dike. In the 64th minute, we get another appearance from a player that the U.S. men's national team fans are not always excited to see whenever he comes onto the field, and that's Kellen Acosta. Kellen Acosta gave up a foul inside the box that was ruled a penalty for Martinique. And I know every time Kellen Acosta makes a mistake, I always hear about it. There's always people going, you know, I know Louis Z woke me up this morning with a comment that said something like, I told you Kellen Acosta is good for one big mistake per game. So he's living up to that reputation. That being said, I wouldn't be surprised if Kellen Acosta continues to play a major role in this tournament, just because at this level, this is the level that Kellen Acosta should shine in. Anyway, so the Martinique player, what was his name? Riviere, comes up to take the penalty. He actually freezes Matt Turner, who doesn't go right or left, and that allows Riviere to slot the ball to the right of Turner and make it 4-1 Martinique. In the 68th minute, we get another substitution as Daryl Dike comes out and Gyasi Zardes comes in. A great match from Daryl Dike. I'm not sure if there's anything more that he could have done. It doesn't take long for Gyasi Zardes to make an impact in the game. In the 70th minute, Christian Roldan from his own defensive half plays a ball in behind in the channel to an on-running Zardes. A Martinique defender attempts to slide at the ball but misses, leaving Zardes on a break. Zardes slots the ball into the far corner, past the keeper, 5-1 USA. Now, this was a moment where, you know, Christian Roldan probably played the best pass of the game right here. It was a beautiful ball that was weighted nicely in behind. Then again, he was given acres of space, and he was also helped out by a Martinique defender who really should have done better, should have either gotten to that ball or just not put himself in a position where it was an all-or-nothing play that gave Gyasi Zardes a one-on-one with the keeper. Gyasi Zardes gets the ball, makes his run at the keeper, and slots it to his left. It was a great finish from Gyasi Zardes. I'm not sure what more we need to say about that. 5-1 USA. In the 90th minute, we get our final goal of the match as Martinique is pinned down into their own box. A Martinique attacker attempts to break, but a poor touch is intercepted by Sam Vines. Sam Vines attempts a shot that's deflected out wide to Busio. Busio plays a low cross to an oncoming Joaquini, 6-1 USA. In the 92nd minute, we get our last bit of action as Martinique gets their best opportunity of the game as a Martinique attacker flashes in the box and hits a hard low strike to Turner's left. Turner stretches out to deny the shot, allowing the game to finish 6-1. And this is an area where, you know, Matt Turner's going to shine. He's a fantastic shot stopper, and we saw that on display right here. We didn't see a lot from Matt Turner throughout this game. His distribution, the thing that we said was not so great from that Haiti game, was not really shown in this game. He just wasn't under that much pressure. So this was his one moment to shine outside of the penalty, really, which I can't really put a lot of blame on him for that. But this was his real one moment to shine, and he came up big whenever the team needed him to. So 6-1 USA. The U.S. casually win that game. One player that I didn't really talk about that should be talked about would be George Bello. George Bello got his start in this game. George Bello is a player that a lot of people put a lot of stock into. He's a player with a ton of upside at the left back position, and that battle between Sam Vines and George Bello was one that we kind of circled coming into this tournament. And I gotta say, George Bello was okay to not great. I'm not sure that he had like some really stellar moments in this game, in a game against a Martinique squad where you'd expect USA to just absolutely dominate. He looked okay. I'm not sure. I don't know in this last game if I would want to start Vines or Bello. I'm kind of leaning towards Vines just because he's got a little bit more experience, but I don't know either way. I don't have a strong opinion on that. I was hoping that one of these players would come into this tournament and really seize that position, but as of yet, we haven't seen that. Now, the big question after that Martinique game is how is the U.S. going to approach this game against Canada? Of course, Canada is going to be the strongest team that we're going to play in this group stage. They're one of the stronger teams in the tournament, and it's going to be the biggest test that the U.S. has had so far. So the question is, are we going to go with that 4-3-3 that we use against Haiti, or are we going to do this three-man back line that we saw against Martinique? And I think that because of the injury to Roldan and the lack of options that we have at the winger position, we're best served to go with that three-man back line. I think James Sands has performed way better than anyone we've seen in the winger position. I think adding James Sands does a lot to this team, not only defensively, but also in the build-up, so I'll definitely go that direction. Now, with the defensive midfielders, boy, that's going to be an interesting question because, I don't think that Jackson Ewell deserves to get a start, but then again, Berhalter also, he loves him some experience, and for that reason, I think that we're going to see Kellen Acosta. I think he's going to be one of those players. Now, who gets the other defensive midfielder position out between Busio and Williamson, I think is almost a toss-up at this point. I'd love to see Busio. I think Busio's just distribution and creativity and just, his ability to be in the box and be threatening at goal and just all the things of Busio, all the intangibles that he brings to the table, I think pair well with Kellen Acosta, who I'm expecting to see in that other pivot position. Moving up the field, we have those attacking midfielders. I think that Sebastian Lletget is going to be one of them. The question is, who's going to be the other one? Is it going to be Matthew Hoppy? Is Paul Areola back? Is it going to be Christian Roldan? Is it going to be somebody else? I think right now I would play Matthew Hoppy. I think we saw a lot of really good things from him in this game. I think he brought some creativity to the table that we weren't really expecting. And the other thing is, Sebastian Lletget is not a player that's really going to get into the box and really be a forward type of player. He's going to more, drop back and get into that midfield. So I think that having Hoppy out there on the field is going to be another option in the box who could possibly pair with that striker who I think is going to be Daryl Dike clearly. So if we're in a tight situation, we could, kind of shift things up and have Hoppy up top and just create a lot of movement and ask a lot of questions of the defense. For the wingers, boy, I'm not really sure. The right back, I think, is clearly going to be Shaq Moore. I think he's been one of the better players for the U.S. throughout the tournament. But on that left side, I'm not sure, do you want to go with Bello? Do you want to go with Vines? I think it's going to be Vines. I think Vines is the left wing back just because he has a little bit more experience. He's a little bit more older. And I was really expecting more from Bello against a Martinique squad that's just not very strong. So that would be the team that I go with. But really, I don't know. I mean, there's a lot of different directions that Berhalter can go with this one. So what were your thoughts on the Martinique game? Did any performances stand out particularly for you? Or were there any players that you were really excited about following this game? What do you think is going to happen in that Canada game? How do you think we're going to line up? Please let me know in the comment section. As always, if you speak Spanish, por favor, leave un comment en español. Así que puedo practicar mi español. If you are still watching and you're not yet subscribed, please consider hitting that subscribe button. I'd appreciate it very much. And if you haven't yet, hit that like button. That like helps out so much. Thank you guys for watching. My name is Sam, and this is the Anchor Report.